Paul, and by way of introduction, my name's David Bridge, and my wife and I built out here in 1996. And I'm a project manager, so I will see things from a project context. Paul, I was actually at that meeting with the ALP, and Andrew and I were both project managers, and we actually asked a couple of questions around the three tiers of government and how they fit in together. Now, Stephen Jones had actually indicated that there was federal assistance for project infrastructure, including here in Horsley. And now, we actually asked a couple of questions, and I think this is where the scene really got unpicked. Because when we asked how much that contribution has been made and how much has been spent here and how much has actually been allocated to the West Dapto Bridge, we couldn't actually get an answer to that question. Now, one of the issues will be for a West Dapto resident. I mean, my children grew up here. I've got daughters that are raising their families here. It's a great suburb to actually raise kids, but we all get frustrated, particularly that 8:15 train that comes through in the morning. And sometimes the traffic can be backed up, actually up here to the shops. So there's the issue when we first contributed to the Section 94. I would have thought reasonably 1996. In 5 years' time, that bridge will be built because they are planning on building the school out the back. And in the last 16, 17 years that we've been here, roughly both sides of Wollongong Road has actually doubled in size. Now, I guess again from a project context, I mean, all they're doing is actually just adding to the volume coming into the funnel. So this is a question for, I guess, local government, but it's also in terms of federal funding. And this is where, if you were elected as our the member for Horsley, you can't keep actually building. There's another estate with about 100 houses, or probably 150 houses. They're going up at a rate of knots. It just adds to the congestion here on Wollongong Road. So it's a question of planning and priority. You'd actually think that they build the West Dapto Bridge before they actually add it to the volume. So I guess, and I guess this is where your influence as a potential federal member of Parliament, it's really been very clear around the allocation of federal money to contribute to that, because it's probably gone from a $20 million project to probably about $50 or $60 million worth. But this is where if Infrastructure Australia does actually contribute to it, the priority needs to be, before you go adding more suburbs out here, you need to build the infrastructure to get rid of the bottleneck.
Yeah, I was going to say, look, at some point there has to be a moratorium on further development out here. People have to bite the bullet in regard to that. I say that very reluctantly because by restricting the further development, of course, it does contribute to increasing the price of housing through supply, but at some point it has to be said, no more. You can't keep building these extensions on the suburb when through this little funnel there's going to be more. And given that there is no public transport out here, so people don't have an option in terms of saying, well, I'll jump on the light rail to go into work like you work in Wollongong. You might, if there was a light rail, you might say, well, it's a 20-minute trip, no stress, I can read. No one has that option. In Sydney, in many parts of the city, you do. But they've created a situation of no options and a situation where more and more congestion is inevitable. So, sure, one of the things that really has to be done is a moratorium until this is done. And of course, we've had council after council that have always portrayed the city as a growing city because they support development. Well, you can't support development without supporting the infrastructure for development. So that's an important issue. But let's say this, a federal member of Parliament, a lot of them will say that's not a federal issue. And that's the way in which politicians hive off the problem. Not my problem. Go and see the Lord Mayor. My view is that a federal parliamentarian, a good member, is a leader of the community in the sense they listen to what the community wants and needs, and they set about implementing it, developing a plan, not a vague plan, but saying, like we did with Volve, this is what we have to achieve. These are the obstacles. These are the way that we can tackle this. Right? And the big problem with the West Dapto Bridge isn't a technical one. I mean, for heaven's sake, we built the Sydney Harbour Tunnel. There's no technical problem. The problem isn't finance, we know that. It shouldn't be, because the levy has been running now for 30 years. So it's a problem of governance. Where does the problem lie? It lies in Horsley Street, in Macquarie Street, and in the middle of Canberra. Now, once we understand what the centre of gravity of this problem is, we can tackle it together as a community. So the parliamentarian's not there to say, oh, you've got a problem, come and see me in the office. And with Stephen Jones, it's between the hours, I think, of 9:30 and 3:30 in the afternoon, Mondays to Fridays. I can assure you, if I was a member, it would be open Saturday mornings, at least, so people who work in Sydney can at least talk to me. But you wouldn't just say, come in and I'll write a letter off to Anthony Albanese on your behalf. What you do is you get the community together, you talk to them as a group, not as individual constituents. And we develop a force for change to get this thing done. And that's been our experience in this city with every big problem we've had. That's how you do it. Bill Shorten recently wrote an article in the Sydney Morning Herald, by the way, or didn't write it, he almost did, where he said this is the way in which you get politicians to do what you want to. They keep it a secret. They don't tell you how to do it. Well, as a local member, I would. And I'd be there to, not just to be a spokesperson, not just to tell you how difficult it is, I'd be there as a facilitator as well as a spokesperson. And I reckon this community out here has the ability and the wherewithal and the resources and everything else that you'll get it done, but you've got to get organised. My view is that a local member of parliament at the federal level is primarily an organiser. Not there primarily to look good. If I thought it was to look good, I wouldn't be running, obviously. Not there to have an image. Not there to tell you the 150 reasons why you can't get this bridge built. I could go through all those. But to give you some lead, to give you some strategies to think about, and then to implement them with you to get it done. I'm saying, whether I get elected or not, let's have a campaign running anyway. Whatever happens in September, let's kick off a campaign here in Horsley for the bridge. Because otherwise, what's going to be happening, I suspect, is next year there'll be another meeting of the new member for Horsley, for Trollspit, where the same complaint will be put and you'll get the same answer. But I believe, I've always believed this, if you get organised and you concentrate all your resources and your energies, and it's democratic, where you make the decision about what's going to happen, things will change. The only other alternative is more of the same old. And I can guarantee you that more of the same old will mean one thing: there'll be no bridge at West Dapto. Because they'll come back to you and say, we've got even less money than what we had 10 years ago. There are even more problems, and so on and so forth. So I'm saying, let's get organised on this one. Irrespective of what happens on September the 14th, I'll be there in October at the next meeting if we have one. If I can help, if you want me to. If you don't want me to, that's fine. But if you do, I believe this is really almost scandalous, what's happened here. And people are being treated in a way that you shouldn't be treated in a democratic society. So I think this meeting can be valuable for two reasons. One is we can consider kicking off something that's a bit different, which will have the possibility that we can change things politically. And secondly, to go back and talk to your neighbours and say, all right, we're going to have a go at this, and see what the support is amongst your neighbours. And the next meeting we have will be even bigger. This is a fantastic meeting, by the way. Congratulations for all the people who came. Thank you. Thank you very much.